No debris, no radiation signature, not even a distortion in the background radiation of space. It was as if that section of the universe had simply ceased to exist. "Mother of Mercy," Commander Torres whispered, his face pale. "What have we done?" Zara's voice was steady, but there was a tremor in her hands as she gripped the arms of her command chair. "We've done what we had to do, Commander. May it be enough to bring this war to a swift end." Across hegemony space, the news of the Sirius Anchorage's destruction spread like wildfire. Entire species, long subjugated by hegemony rule, looked to the stars with a mixture of hope and fear. The undefeatable conquerors had been bloodied, their illusion of invincibility shattered. On 1,000 worlds, resistance movements that had long operated in the shadows now burst into the open. Inspired by humanity's example and aided by their advanced technology, oppressed species rose up against their hegemony overlords. The Galactic hegemony, an empire that had stood unchallenged for millennia, now found itself fighting for its very survival. And at the heart of this galactic upheaval stood humanity, a species the hegemony had dismissed as primitive upstarts mere days ago. As reports of the Prometheus weapon's devastation reached apex prime, High Arbiter Scathar's gelatinous form quivered with a mixture of rage and terror. For the first time in its long existence, it faced the very real possibility of defeat. "General Vexcor," Scathar's voice was uncharacteristically subdued. "What are our options?" The insectoid general's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of deep distress. "High Arbiter, I believe we must consider the possibility of seeking terms with the humans. The alternative may well be the complete destruction of our civilization." As the words hung in the air, a terrible silence fell over the hegemony war room. The unthinkable had happened. The mighty galactic hegemony was contemplating surrender to a species it had, mere days ago, considered barely worthy of notice. In the vast expanse of space, humanity's fleets pressed their advantage, driving deeper into hegemony territory. The first strike had been delivered, and it had shaken the foundations of galactic civilization. But the war was far from over, and the greatest challenges and decisions still lay ahead. The galaxy held its collective breath, waiting to see what this upstart species from a backwater planet would do next. Humanity had proven its might, but could it also show wisdom and restraint in victory? The fate of countless civilizations hung in the balance, and the next moves would determine the shape of the galaxy for millennia to come. The turning tide. The aftermath of the Prometheus weapons deployment sent shockwaves across the galaxy. As news of the Sirius Anchorage's obliteration spread, the carefully constructed facade of hegemony invincibility crumbled. Across 1,000 worlds, subjugated species looked to the stars with newfound hope and fear. On Fortress Alpha, Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood before a holographic display of the galaxy, watching as the tide of battle shifted in humanity's favor. Yet her expression was grim, the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. "Status report," she commanded, her voice tight with tension. Colonel Alexei Volkov stepped forward, his face etched with a mixture of awe and concern. "The hegemony is in disarray, Admiral. Their command and control structure is collapsing. We're seeing widespread rebellions on at least 30% of their subject worlds." Tanaka nodded, her eyes never leaving the display. "And the Prometheus weapon?" Volkov hesitated before responding. "It exceeded all expectations, Admiral. The power it unleashed was beyond anything we anticipated. Some of our scientists are expressing concerns about potential long-term effects on the fabric of spacetime in the target area." A heavy silence fell over the command center. The Prometheus weapon had given humanity the edge it needed, but at what cost? Tanaka's voice was quiet but firm when she spoke. "We've opened Pandora's box, Colonel. Now we must deal with the consequences." She turned to face her staff, her eyes blazing with determination. "But we cannot falter now. The hegemony is on the back foot, but they're far from defeated. We push forward, but with caution. The Prometheus is to be considered a weapon of absolute last resort from this point forward. As her orders were relayed across the human fleets, Tanaka couldn't shake a nagging sense of unease. They had struck a mighty blow against the hegemony, but the war was far from over, and the greatest challenges might yet lie ahead. On the hegemony throne world of Apex Prime, chaos reigned. The once orderly corridors of the Imperial Palace now echoed with panicked shouts and the hurried footsteps of officials trying to make sense of the disaster that had befallen them. In the heart of the storm, High Arbiter Scathar's gelatinous form roiled with a mixture of rage and terror. Its most trusted advisors had gathered in the war room, their faces, or equivalent sensory organs, etched with fear and disbelief. How? Scathar's voice modulator struggled to convey the depth of its fury. How could these upstart primitives possess such power? An entire fleet anchorage, simply erased from existence. General Vexcor, his kitten dulled with stress, clicked his mandibles nervously. High Arbiter, we gravely underestimated the humans. Their technological advancement, their strategic acumen, it all points to years, perhaps decades of careful planning and preparation. Before Scathar could respond, the doors to the war room burst open. A junior officer, its tentacles writhing in agitation, rushed in. High Arbiter, we've lost contact with the Zeta Reticuli sector, and reports are coming in of mass uprisings on dozens of subject worlds. Scathar's form pulsed with shock. Impossible. The Nexus cannot be disrupted. It's the backbone of our entire empire. General Vexcor's compound eyes narrowed. It seems, High Arbiter, that the impossible has become possible. We are facing an enemy unlike any we have ever encountered. As the implications sank in, Scathar felt something it had not experienced in millennia. Genuine fear. The galactic hegemony, which had stood unchallenged for eons, now faced an existential threat from a species it had dismissed as insignificant mere days ago. Aboard the HS Defiant, Captain Zara Nguyen watched the tactical display with a mixture of satisfaction and unease. The hegemony fleets were in disarray, their once coordinated movements now erratic and desperate. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension thrumming through her body. Commander Jake Torres responded promptly. "The hegemony's 7th Fleet is in full retreat, Captain. Our forces have secured control of the Orion Arm Gateway. Phantom Corps teams report successful sabotage operations on 3 major hegemony supply depots." Zara nodded, allowing herself a small smile. "Excellent. And the Prometheus?" Torres' expression tightened. "Fully recharged, Captain. But there are concerns among the science team about using it again. The readings from the Sirius deployment are troubling." Before Zara could respond, a priority communication came through. Admiral Tanaka's hologram materialized on the bridge, her face grave. "Captain Nguyen, we have a situation. Our long-range sensors have detected a massive energy buildup in the hegemony core systems. Intelligence suggests they're preparing to deploy some kind of super weapon of their own." Zara's blood ran cold. A countermeasure to the Prometheus. Tanaka shook her head. "We're not sure. But whatever it is, it's big, and it's aimed right at Earth. I'm diverting the bulk of our forces to intercept, but the Defiant is closest. You need to buy us time." As the hologram winked out, Zara turned to her crew. Their faces were a mixture of determination and fear. They all knew what was at stake. "You heard the Admiral." Zara's voice rang out, clear and strong. "Plot a course for the hegemony core systems. Maximum speed. We're going to show these bastards that humanity isn't so easily cowed." As the Defiant surged forward, tearing a hole in the fabric of space-time, Zara couldn't help but wonder if they were racing towards their finest hour or their final stand. On the fringes of hegemony space, a lone figure moved with purpose through the shadows of a long-abandoned space station. Major Eli Reeves of the Phantom Corps interfaced directly with the ancient systems, his neural implants decoding encryption that had stymied the greatest minds in the galaxy for centuries. "Jackpot," Eli whispered as the station's databases yielded their secrets. "Fortress Alpha, This is Phantom 3. You're not going to believe what I found. Back on Fortress Alpha, Admiral Tanaka leaned forward, her eyes intent on the data streaming in. "My God," she breathed. "Is this accurate, Major?" Ila's voice was grim. "Confirmed, Admiral. The hegemony's been sitting on this for millennia. A weapon capable of inducing artificial supernovas. They call it the Star Killer." Tanaka's mind raced with the implications, and they're preparing to use it on Earth. "Major, we need everything you can find on this weapon. Weaknesses, deployment methods, anything." As Eli worked feverishly to extract every scrap of data, Tanaka turned to her staff. "Alert all commands. We're initiating Operation Shadowfall. May the stars watch over us all." In the heart of hegemony space, aboard the colossal battle station that housed the Star Killer, High Arbiter Scathar watched with grim satisfaction as the weapon powered up. Its gelatinous form quivered with anticipation. "Let the humans taste true power." Scathar's voice dripped with malice. "When their homeworld burns, they will learn the price of defying the hegemony." General Vexcor, overseeing the weapon's activation, felt a flicker of unease. "High Arbiter, are we certain this is wise? The use of such a weapon could have unforeseen consequences across the galaxy." Scathar's form rippled with anger. "You dare question me, General. The hegemony's supremacy must be maintained at all costs. Activate the Star Killer. Let the galaxy witness the price of rebellion." As the massive weapon began to hum with terrifying power, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Vexcor's compound eyes widened in shock. "High Arbiter, human ships have breached our defensive perimeter." On the main view screen, a sleek, dark vessel appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. The HSS Defiant had arrived, leading the charge of a human battle group that materialized from the void like avenging specters. Aboard the Defiant, Captain Zaranguian's voice rang out clear and strong. "All ships, engage at will. Take out that weapon at all costs." The void of space erupted in a dazzling display of destructive power as human and hegemony ships clashed. The Defiant danced between enemy vessels, its advanced weapons tearing through shields and armor with terrifying efficiency. But the hegemony's numbers were vast, and the Star Killer loomed ever closer to activation. As Zara watched her ships take hit after hit, she knew drastic action was needed. "Commander Torres," she called out, her voice tight with tension. "Prep the Prometheus. We have no choice." Torres's face paled, but he nodded grimly. "Aye, Captain." Prometheus charging. As the battle raged around them, the Defiant's Prometheus weapon hummed to life. Zara took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. "Target the Star Killer. Fire when ready." The ship shuddered as the Prometheus activated, a beam of pure, reality-warping energy lancing out across the void. It struck the Star Killer dead center, and for a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, chaos erupted. The Star Killer's containment fields collapsed, its unimaginable energies released in a cataclysmic explosion. Space itself seemed to twist and warp, light bending in impossible ways. "All ships, emergency jump." Zara yelled as the Defiant was buffeted by waves of energy. "Get us out of here." As human and hegemony ships alike fled the expanding maelstrom, a shockwave of unimaginable power swept through the system. When it cleared, where once had been the heart of hegemony power, there was now nothing. And vast, empty void, as if that section of space had simply ceased to exist. Aboard the Defiant, now safely distant from the catastrophe, a stunned silence fell over the bridge. Commander Torres was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. "Captain, what have we done?" Zara stared at the sensor readings, her face pale. "We've changed the face of the galaxy, Commander. For better or worse, nothing will ever be the same." As reports of the Star Killer's destruction spread across hegemony space, the Empire's grip on its subject worlds crumbled. Entire species, long oppressed, rose up in open rebellion. The galactic hegemony, which had stood for millennia, was collapsing. But as the dust settled, and the true scope of the destruction became clear, a new fear began to spread. The weapons wielded in this war, both human and hegemony, had torn holes in the very fabric of space-time. What would be the long-term consequences of such power unleashed? As Captain Zoran Guion looked out at the stars, she couldn't shake the feeling that while they had won the battle, the true test of humanity's resolve was yet to come. The galaxy had been reshaped, and humanity now stood at a crossroads. Would they rise to the challenge of shepherding a new era of peace and cooperation? Or would they succumb to the same thirst for power that had corrupted the hegemony? The tide had turned, but the future remained uncertain. As the Defiant set course for Earth, Zura knew that the hardest decisions and the greatest challenges still lay ahead. The galaxy watched and waited, wondering what this upstart species from a backwater planet would do next. The age of the hegemony was over. The age of humanity had begun. The final stand. The galaxy held its breath in the aftermath of the Star Killer's destruction. The void left by the hegemony's fall echoed with the cries of liberation and the chaos of uncertainty. Humanity, once dismissed as insignificant, now stood at the center of a cosmic revolution. On Earth, the streets of every major city were filled with a mixture of celebration and apprehension. Holographic displays showed the latest updates from the front lines, where human fleets were pushing deeper into former hegemony space. In the halls of the United Earth Government, leaders from across the planet gathered for an emergency session. The atmosphere was tense, the weight of responsibility heavy on every shoulder. President Adama Okafor, a tall woman with eyes that sparkled with intelligence and determination, addressed the assembly. My fellow leaders, we stand at a crossroads. The hegemony is on the brink of collapse, but the power we've unleashed, it comes with grave responsibilities. She gestured to a holographic display showing the vast emptiness where the Star Killer had once been. The Prometheus weapon and the Star Killer have torn holes in the very fabric of space-time. Our scientists warn of potential long-term consequences that could affect the entire galaxy. A murmur ran through the assembled leaders. Chancellor Zhang of the Asia-Pacific Coalition spoke up, his voice trembling slightly. Are you suggesting we halt our advance? After everything we've sacrificed? Okafor shook her head. No, Chancellor, we cannot stop now. But we must be mindful of the power we wield. The galaxy looks to us now, not as conquerors, but as liberators. We must prove ourselves worthy of that trust. As the debate raged on, a priority communication came through. Admiral Yuki Tanaka's hologram materialized in the center of the chamber, her face grave. Madam President, leaders of Earth, we have a situation. Our forces have reached the hegemony throne world of Apex Prime, but something's wrong. We're detecting massive energy readings, unlike anything we've ever seen. Okafor's eyes narrowed. Explain, Admiral. Tanaka's hologram flickered as she pulled up a tactical display. It appears the hegemony has activated some kind of doomsday device. If our readings are correct, it has the potential to create a chain reaction that could destabilize spacetime across the entire galaxy. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. Okafor was the first to recover, her voice steady as she asked, Options, Admiral. Tanaka's expression was grim. We're mobilizing every ship we have. But, Madam President, I don't think it will be enough. Not against something like this. Okafor closed her eyes for a moment, the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. When she opened them, they blazed with determination. Then we make our stand here, Admiral. Humanity brought down the hegemony. Now we must save the galaxy from the consequences of that victory. As the transmission ended, Okafor turned to the assembled leaders. My friends, the final battle awaits. Let us show the galaxy what humanity truly stands for. In the void of space near Apex Prime, the largest fleet ever assembled in human history dropped out of faster-than-light travel. At its head was the HSS Defiant, battle-scarred but unbowed. On the bridge, Captain Zara Nguyen surveyed the tactical display, her face set in grim determination. "Status report," she commanded. Commander Jake Torres responded, his voice tight with tension. "Hegemony forces are in disarray, Captain. But that energy signature from the planet's surface, it's off the charts. Whatever they've activated down there, it's like nothing we've ever seen." Zara nodded, her mind racing through potential strategies. "And the Prometheus?" Torres hesitated before replying. "Fully charged, Captain, but given what happened at the Star Killer, using it here could have catastrophic consequences." Before Zara could respond, a priority communication came through. Admiral Tanaka's hologram appeared on the bridge, her face etched with the strain of command. "Captain Nguyen, we're out of options. That device on Apex Prime needs to be shut down, or we're looking at the potential collapse of space-time across the entire galaxy. I need your best team on the ground, now." Zara's eyes hardened with resolve. "Understood, Admiral. I'll leave the team myself." As the hologram winked out, Zara turned to her crew. "Prep a strike team. We're going in." On the surface of Apex Prime, chaos reigned. The once gleaming capital of the hegemony was now a battleground, with desperate hegemony loyalists fighting against both human forces and rebellious subject species. In the heart of the Imperial Palace, High Arbiter Skithar's gelatinous form quivered with a mixture of rage and fear. Before it stood a massive device, pulsing with otherworldly energy. "If we cannot rule the galaxy," Skithar's voice modulator struggled to convey its fury. "Then let it burn. Activate the void catalyst." General Vexcor, his kitten cracked and dulled, stepped forward. "High Arbiter, please. This madness must end. The device could destroy everything, including us." Skithar's form rippled with malevolent glee. "Better oblivion than submission to these human upstarts. Activate it, now." As Vexcor reluctantly moved to comply, the doors to the chamber burst open. Captain Zara Nguyen led a team of heavily armed human soldiers into the room, their weapons trained on the hegemony leaders. "Step away from the device," Zara commanded, her voice ringing with authority. Skithar's form pulsed with hatred. "You're too late, human. The void catalyst is already activating. Soon, the very fabric of space-time will unravel. Your victory will be as empty as the void that awaits us all." Zara's mind raced, assessing the situation. The device was indeed powering up, reality itself seeming to warp around it. They had seconds, maybe minutes, before catastrophe struck. "Science team, talk to me," she barked into her comm. "How do we shut this thing down?" The response came back, tinged with panic. "Captain, the energy readings are off the charts. We can't. Wait. There's a pattern to the energy fluctuations. If we could introduce a counter-frequency, we might be able to create a destructive interference pattern." Zara's eyes widened as realization struck. "The Prometheus. We use the Prometheus." She turned to her team. "Get that data to the Defiant. Tell them to recalibrate the Prometheus to match these energy signatures." As her orders were relayed, Zara faced the hegemony leaders. Skithar's form roiled with impotent rage, while Vexcor stood silent, his compound eyes unreadable. "It's over," Zara said, her voice firm but not unkind. "Your empire has fallen, but it doesn't have to end in destruction. Help us shut this down, and we can work towards a new future, one of cooperation, not domination." For a long moment, silence reigned. Then, to everyone's surprise, General Vexcor stepped forward. "Enough," he said, his mandibles clicking softly. "Too much has been lost already. I will help you deactivate the void catalyst." As Vexcor moved to the device's controls, Skithar's form pulsed with fury. "Traitor," it shrieked. "I'll see you all burn." In a sudden burst of movement, Skithar lunged for the device. Zara reacted instantly, diving to intercept. Human and alien grappled at the foot of the void catalyst, its energies building to a crescendo around them. Just as it seemed the device would detonate, a beam of pure energy lanced down from the sky. The Defiant had fired the recalibrated Prometheus weapon directly at the void catalyst. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a sound like reality itself tearing, the energies of the Prometheus and the void catalyst collided. A blinding flash of light engulfed the chamber. When it faded, the void catalyst was gone, along with a significant portion of the Imperial Palace. In its place was nothing. The perfectly spherical void, as if that section of space had simply ceased to exist. Zara picked herself up, ears ringing and vision blurry. She looked around, taking stock of her team. They were battered but alive. Of Scathar, there was no sign. General Vexcor, who had been thrown clear of the blast, slowly rose to his feet. He regarded Zara with a mixture of awe and resignation. "It seems," he said softly, "that the age of the hegemony is truly over." Zara nodded, her expression solemn. "But it doesn't have to be the end. Your knowledge, your experience, we'll need it to help stabilize the galaxy. Will you help us?" Vexcor was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he extended a clawed hand. "For the sake of all species, I will." As Zara clasped the alien general's hand, she couldn't help but feel that this moment, this choice to reach out in cooperation rather than conquest, was perhaps humanity's greatest victory. In the days and weeks that followed, the galaxy saw changes on a scale not witnessed in millennia. The galactic hegemony, which had stood for eons, crumbled. In its place, a new order began to emerge. Led by Earth but with input from countless species, the Galactic Cooperative was born. It was not an empire, but a forum for interstellar cooperation and mutual defense. Former subject species, now free to chart their own destinies, brought new perspectives and technologies to the table. The scars left by the war were deep. The vast voids created by the Prometheus weapon and the void catalyst served as stark reminders of the dangers of unchecked power. Teams of scientists from across the galaxy worked tirelessly to understand and mitigate the damage done to the fabric of space-time. On Earth, in the newly constructed Hall of Unity, President Okafor addressed the first gathering of the Galactic Cooperative. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the chamber, their diversity a testament to the new era of cooperation. "Friends, allies, fellow sentients," Okafor began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. "We stand here today, not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as equals. The hegemony's fall has given us all a chance to build something new, something better." She gestured to the assembled representatives. "Each of us brings unique strengths, unique perspectives to this alliance. Together, we can face challenges that would overwhelm any single species. Together, we can explore the mysteries of the universe, push the boundaries of science, and ensure a future of prosperity for all." Okafor's eyes swept the chamber, meeting the gazes of beings from across the galaxy. "But we must also remember the lessons of the past. The power we wield, the power to reshape worlds, to tear holes in the fabric of space itself, it comes with grave responsibility. We must be better than those who came before us. We must be guardians, not conquerors." As she spoke, a holographic display activated behind her, showing the vast expanse of the galaxy. Tiny points of light represented member worlds of the new cooperative, forming a web of alliances that spanned the stars. "The road ahead will not be easy," Okafor continued. "There are wounds to heal, trust to rebuild, and great challenges to overcome. But I have faith in humanity and in all of you. Together, we will forge a future brighter than any single species could imagine." As applause filled the chamber, Okafor couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. Humanity had faced its greatest trial and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. They had brought down an empire and helped birth a new era of galactic cooperation. The future was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But as Okafor looked out at the assembled representatives of a united galaxy, she knew one thing for certain: humanity had found its place among the stars. and together with their new allies, they would face whatever challenges the universe had in store. The age of the hegemony was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again.